Close to 1 million people live within a 30-minute drive of Center Street Church, many of whom don't know God personally. They represent our friends, relatives, family, co-workers,
and classmates. They need a place to find God, to connect, and to learn about God.
We want to be able to bring them to our church. We want them to be able to sit next to us, to worship, and to know God the way we do.
So it was in 1958 that we left the Mother Church with about 60 people. One of the leaders of that group was Gordon Eilhart.
When we began the church in 1958, we built what we thought at that time was a beautiful building, small but very attractive and very neat and very nicely done. Many of us thought that if we built a nice church with some colored glass and a few features of that nature, that would appeal to people and attract them. I think we learned very quickly that it didn't. Buildings don't attract people. People attract people.
One of the things, of course, that's mushroomed is the attendance at Center Street. When we started, it was only probably just 150, 175, and then up to 300 maybe at that time. And then it's mushroomed ever since.
The growth over the years has continued and been gradual until today. We're so thrilled to see what's happening here from small beginnings. So it's been a real joy. When the foundation was being dug, a little blonde-haired boy from just across the lane came running over and said to my husband, "What's going on here? What's going on here?" And he said,
he was the minister, and they're going to be starting a church and a Sunday school really soon. And I said I wanted to go. And as I look back now, I just realized how much God loved me, that He'll build a church right next door to my house.
there are many Lucases and many people that came to Center Street Church. There would be many, many stories of people who came to know the Lord. And this is our desire now, to see more.
Way back in 1977, I was in grade 12, and it was a Friday afternoon, and I had the car to drive home. So I went to my girlfriend's locker to pick her up, and another friend of hers was talking to her, and I didn't know her real well, so I just kind of hung back, and Karen kept talking to my friend, and eventually Karen noticed I was sitting there and kind of felt awkward talking about this group that they were going to that night, so she invited me to come too. And it was this YF group. I didn't have a clue what a YF group was, but I went and had a blast. And it ended up being the youth fellowship group here at Center Street. And I started going every Friday night, and I eventually became a Christian, and I've been coming ever since.
Center Street's had a huge effect on my life. I came here in near the end of 1980, and because of a Christian rock band, I was able to be influenced by these guys who had long hair, much longer than mine was, and even mine is now. And I hung out with these guys probably for a year. And so then I finally accepted the Lord. It changed my life.
Growth in a church is the result of God at work in the lives of people. I think that what we're seeing now and have seen in the last 10 years is that kind of an attraction that has occurred because of the growth, spiritual growth in the lives of many people.
Center Street Church has grown despite the fact that we have been crowded, that parking lots, parking spaces have not been available as much as they should. And yet I feel that so often it may be a hindrance. There's nothing that is more discouraging for me than to see people come to the door, look in, see that there's no seats, and say, well, let's go home.
We've turned hundreds of people away from our services. I was photographing our crowds a little while ago, and there was probably 75 people sitting on the stairs. And the floodgates are opening, people are coming, but we have no space for it. So how long are they going to put up with that? How long are people still going to invite their friends if they have to sit on steps, or if they have to watch it on a TV from the foyer or the gym? Things like that. We don't want to be turning away people who are headed for heaven. You know, if we can have an impact on these guys, if they're searching and we don't have a light, to help them out, we're dropping the ball big time.
So when we have life groups and so on like that, for example, in junior high, we have over 200 students involved in life groups. We have no place to put them. When we do breakout rooms and so on like that for life groups, you're using gym space and open space, sometimes even putting them in the photocopy room because we don't have enough room for them. But when you look at what can be accomplished here, the way God has moved this church and this congregation forward, I have never seen this kind of opportunity before.
Kids Connection is important to me as a parent. It allows me to leave my kids with trained leaders in a safe environment so they can learn about God in age-appropriate ways. And my husband and I can go off to the main sanctuary and learn from Henry about God in a way that's meaningful to us.
I've been going to Kids Connection for about 2 years now, and I think it's really fun. And I've got a lot of friends who don't know Jesus, so we need more room so that I can invite all my friends, and hopefully they'll come to know Jesus too.
There's no doubt about it that this facility is receiving maximum use. The options, I guess, are clear. To relocate away from this site. A second option would be to decentralize the current church into a number of smaller units, sometimes referred to as daughter churches, to build on the property that we have at the Sunset site. And I think after having examined all of the pros and cons of all of the options that we had, the decision was made that at this time, that is the most feasible option.
First of all, I love the mission of Center Street Church because it's crystal clear. It's crystal clear in my heart, and I think in the hearts of hundreds and hundreds of people. And it's to introduce people to Jesus, lost people, and help them become fully devoted followers of Jesus. And it really is true. We need facilities to help us accomplish that mission. God may be working in a person's heart, and they finally come on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night or to a weekend service, and this is the moment that they will be introduced to Jesus. And there's no room in the auditorium, or they can't find a parking spot, and they leave. And so there's no question, facilities are tied to our mission statement very directly and very clearly. The second part of our mission statement says to grow Christians or new believers into fully devoted followers. And again, the same is true there. When we don't have classroom space to equip people, when there's not room for people to get connected in some of the midweek activities, our ability to impact their lives is lessened, and facilities plays a part in that.
Right now, it's amazing to me that there is a cap on the number of people that we can minister to. I look at so many of our ministries, and there's no place to grow, there's no place to go. I look at that in comparison with our city, and the number of people there is still to reach for Jesus Christ.
Dr. Henry Shore is a mentor to the pastors of this city, and Center Street Church is known as a place of strong biblical preaching and effective community in small groups. As God expands your ministry and more people come to Christ through Center Street Church, the whole city will benefit. Other churches will reap the results of what God does here. I believe God is calling Center Street Church to have an impact on this entire city.
Center Street Church has been a very generous, giving church. They have been generous to us in the sense of offering freely of what they have learned. Take it, use it, adapt it, do whatever God would with what we have learned.
So in many ways, we just want to thank Center Street Church for not just allowing God to bless them, but allowing God to bless many others through them. And our church has definitely benefited from that blessing.
Center Street has been an incredible partner for the center. They help in so many ways, it's really hard to actually list them all. Center Street has been involved in doing something that we think is really important at the center. They run a single mom's breakfast, and that's been an important ministry to the center. Many of our clients at the center have never walked through the doors of a church, and church is scary to them. And it's foreign, and they've never been there. And the thought of coming to a weekend service is just kind of scary to them. But the single mom's breakfast intrigues them. They identify with that, and they get really excited about the whole concept that there's some place to go on Saturday morning, and their kids are going to be taken care of for free, and they're going to get a free breakfast. And they come and they experience that, and suddenly church isn't so scary. And they start to think, maybe I can go to a service on the weekend. Center Street is one of those churches that really, really gets what it means to partner with a parachurch ministry, and we are really blessed by our relationship.
The people at Center Street Church are the friendliest people I've ever met. I donated money because I believe in this church, and I believe in what it stands for.
It has amazed me since I came to see the number of lives that have been impacted for Jesus Christ. When I came in 1996, there was 2,400 people attending, and now there's close to 4,000 people attending. So watching what God is doing in and through people's lives is, it's amazing to me.
Our ability to answer God's call to reach those close to our church community, to impact our entire city of Calgary, to help establish international cell churches, to continue to encourage pastors in the churches of our city and across this land. All of these things depend on our ability to grow our facilities. Considering that we are gearing ourselves up to minister to really the equivalent of a small city, over 10,000 people, this venture will not be an inexpensive undertaking. Our Campus Development Committee has established a very cost-effective structure that is both practical and attractive, and it will meet both our immediate needs and also the needs of future growth. The estimated cost of this facility is around $13.5 million. The good news is we already have about $1 million earmarked for this project, and that leaves us, of course, with a goal of $12.5 million. Our new facility will contain a new worship center with potential of over 3,000 seats. There will be new facilities for our children from nursery through to grade 5. There's going to be a large atrium with a food court to encourage the development of relationships and community as individuals and small groups meet before and after the services and also during the week. A staff center so that our entire staff can be in the same building. Parking for over 1,300 cars on site. No more busing. Necessary first step remodeling of the present facility to become a youth and equipping caring center. And if we should exceed our target goal, there is provision for the addition of a large gymnasium facility for our growing crossover sports ministry.
In order to see this new facility become reality, we will need to raise $12.5 million over the next 3 years. This will require much prayer, sacrifice, and ongoing communication. Therefore, this fall, the Giving God Room campaign will consist of the following 3 phases. The first phase is the information phase. A campaign ambassador will contact you to give you the information that you will need in order to help you understand what the Giving God Room campaign is all about. You will have opportunity to discuss the materials, to receive answers to your important questions, and to pray together. The second phase is the spiritual exploration phase. Pastor Henry will challenge us from God's Word about what it means to give God room in our lives and in our church. The financial commitment phase is the last phase, where each of us will be given an opportunity to indicate our obedience to God through our financial commitments to the building project. Our objectives throughout this campaign have been to give God room to increase the spiritual maturity of our congregation and to give God room to work a miracle through our giving.
It was a little over 40 years ago when a group of 61 young adults felt led of God to plant a new church we now refer to as Center Street Church. They began meeting for services in Highland Park Community Hall. But then in order to give God room, they bought land, built their first worship center and the church parsonage at a cost of over $95,000. This was a gigantic step of faith. For remember, those were the days when the average salary was around $3,500 a year, not a month, but a year. In today's terms, it would be like 61 of us committing to building a church campus valued at over $1 million, or the approximately 3,200 adults who now attend our services on a typical weekend, committing to a building project of around $51 million, or an average of $16,000 per individual. Because of the sacrifice and faith of those 60-plus people, many others came to know the Lord and grew in Him over the next 20 years. In 1979, a flourishing ministry to youth and college students led the congregation to take another step of faith and to give God more room by building a gym and an educational wing, facilities that we are so grateful to have today. God used these facilities along with the fervent prayers and servant hearts of His people to see the church grow to over 800 people in 4 services by 1992. That group of people, too, could have said, enough already, but instead they trusted God, bought 2 more parcels of land, and built our present worship center and education wing at a total cost of $3 million. People reached deep and gave sacrificially, and when we dedicated our new worship center 6 years ago, we did so without owing a dime, an incredible testimony to the faithfulness of God and His people. Presently, we are witnessing what can happen when we give God room. Hundreds of people have come to Christ, and we are now ministering to over 4,000 children, youth, and adults on a weekend, 3 times the number of people we were ministering to just 6 years ago. Our missions giving is larger now than our entire church giving was 10 years ago. Through our annual Breakaway Conference, email, phone, and on-site visits, our staff and lay leaders are encouraging and helping hundreds of pastors and church leaders in the city and across Canada. We have 7 sister churches internationally that we either planted or adopted early in their development and are providing prayer, financial support, encouragement, training, and relief and development funds to help them reach their community for Christ. Locally, we're supportive through finances and volunteers of city agencies dedicated to meeting the needs of the hurting and the poor. We are one of only a few churches in this city that are ministering to people with special needs. We've encouraged other churches by doing cooperative outreach activities through our crossover sports ministry and by sharing our training materials, our music, our musicians, and singers with them. God has blessed us in so many ways, and those of us who have been involved in this amazing God-guided adventure have rich memories that we will carry into our future and even to our graves. Those of you who attended our Jubilee service at the Corral this past June will remember the hundreds who came forward and symbolically placed a card representing their old life on the cross. As they file by one, I just wept with joy at how good the Lord is and how much He wants to use all of us as a team to change this world, a world that's gone so wrong. I trust that as you saw the hundreds walk up to that cross, you were reminded again that you're not crazy, giving your life and your money away in love for others. For when it's all said and done, there will be no greater reward than one day seeing them in heaven. But now a new chapter is upon us. Now there are not 60, not even a few hundred, but thousands of us. Are we prepared to enter the new land of opportunity before us? Or will we shrink back and say, us four, no more, close the door? We could opt out of what God wants yet to do through us. But such a decision is unthinkable and inconsistent not only with Christ's mandate for the church, but the character of this church and its people. Such a mindset will begin to sow seeds of death for Center Street. Our church will grow weaker, its light will grow dimmer, and the life will be sucked out of it. That's what happens when the church turns inward. But you see, when a church follows God's lead and turns outward, when a church leaves the harbor and pushes out and says, we're going to make room for more, then there's new life and new hope for tomorrow. As we give God room, we get to create new memories. We get to pray new prayers and to trust God for more changed lives. As we give God room, we can make even greater investment in ministries to the hurting and to the poor and to pastors and church leaders in other churches in this city, across the land and around the world. I want to invite you to join us in this new chapter of our church. I want to ask 3 things of you. First, to recommit yourself to let God use you to introduce your friends and family to Jesus. Secondly, I challenge you to get out of the bleachers and into the action, to invest your life serving God in the area that He's gifted you to, so together we can help our children, youth, younger and older believers become fully devoted followers of Jesus. but also so we can demonstrate the love of Jesus in practical ways to our hurting world. And then thirdly, I ask that you recommit all your resources back to God. And then to ask Him this question: Lord, what do you want to do through me to accomplish your will for Center Street Church? Gwen and I have been asking the Lord that question for some time now. This summer, we spent several days carefully evaluating our budget and prayerfully considering adjustments we can make and things we can postpone or not get at all in order to free up more resources for God's kingdom work. During our family time, what a joy it's been to discuss ways that we can sacrifice and live more simply as a family in order to invest more into heavenly treasures. And what a blessing it is to hear our sons talk about ways they can earn extra money and are feeling led by God to make sacrifices in order to give more. I challenge you to do the same with your loved ones or your accountability partner. It'll be one of the greatest spiritual growth experiences you will have as an individual or as a family. You know, the Bible reminds us that all we ever get from the day of our birth to life on the other side in eternity is one life, one brief era in which to invest our lives in the greatest cause ever given to man. And then it's all over. Jesus said, "Work, for the night is coming, when no one shall labor again." Friends, we must understand that. This is our time. This is our one shining season, and what we do with it really matters. It matters to Christ. It matters to the poor. It matters to struggling churches all over the world. And yes, it matters to our loved ones, our friends and neighbors who are yet without Christ. I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in just maintaining the status quo, going through the motions. I want to invest my life in that which will glorify God and will last forever. And folks, that's people. The scripture says, "By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit." Giving God room is fundamentally about bearing much, much more fruit to the honor and glory of God. I'm fully aware that buildings don't change lives, but what goes on inside them does. When we invest in God's work, we are investing for eternity. In light of the unmistakable ways that God has already worked through our church, how could we do anything less than join together and to give God room? I invite you to be part of this exciting adventure with us and leave a legacy for all those who come behind us. Thank you, and God bless you.
Giving God room in my life to see the world with eyes of love and make a sacrifice. Giving God room, whatever the cost, for His love and light to shine and bring hope to the lost. All I have belongs to Jesus. He's the reason I'm alive. So I'll gladly lay it down and step aside. Giving God room in my life to see the world with eyes of love and make a sacrifice. Giving God room, whatever the cost, for His love and light to shine and bring hope to the lost. All I have belongs to Jesus. He's the reason I'm alive. So I'll gladly lay it down and step aside. I'm giving God room. Giving God room.